Everybody, welcome to another episode of Cressy's Ontario Landlord Series, where we speak to Ontario landlords and investors in real estate about whatever it is that they need to know, speaking to experts, professionals in different trades, professions, ways that we can educate and inform you all the time to make sure that you're always having all the information so that you can make the right decision, whatever that may be for you in your specific situation. We talk a lot about the long-term rental game and how that is great to be a housing provider and everything like that to the community. But one thing that's out there, and there's a few different niches to this market, is the short-term rentals or the Airbnb type rental, right? What are you kind of looking for here? Is it vacation? Is it just filling in for short term? Lots of different ways to do that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to speak to Brad McRae, who we spoke to before about cottage and vacation rentals, but he also runs an Airbnb short-term rental business as well that doesn't just include those cottage rentals. So we're going to talk to him about the other side today and the Airbnb just in general, like downtown Toronto or where else you might have them, or you can have them, for example. Well, without further ado, let's bring in Brad. Say hi. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. Thanks for having me back. Excited to chat today. And yeah, just for people who either didn't watch the last one, a quick kind of background on myself. So my wife and I got into the short-term rental management. We had a house of ours that we really just wanted to rent out when we went on vacation. And that is right down in Toronto. And that turned into now we manage properties here in Ontario, up in Cottage Country. We have a couple properties in Florida as well as Arizona. So we have expanded that and are continuing to grow our management company that way, and always happy to share whatever insights we have for the homeowner that's looking to either invest or they are trying to transition from long term to short term.
So some people, when they're getting started on this, one way to do it is use your own primary residence, right? We've talked before about that first initial landlord being maybe renting out your basement apartment. Well, I have a friend who has a property. It's out in Caledon, and he actually rents it out, and he goes away, whether it's to his trailer in the summer while they're renting it out, or away on vacation with his family, and it's paid for and more by just leaving his house to somebody else. So that's a great way to get started if you have that ability to travel whenever somebody wants your house, I guess. I couldn't get out of mine that easy, that's for sure. But no, I think that's a great idea for someone to get started. And that's how you got started as well, correct?
Exactly. It was really an experiment. I think we knew we wanted to go in the direction of starting a property management company and have multiple properties managed. So this was kind of our stepping stone of, hey, let's try it with ours. Let's see how it goes, and if we like it, and we make actually the money we think we are, like let's continue doing it with more properties.
The money is something I want to dive into today, the numbers of, and I know we're going to speak generally, probably. We can't have anything specific because every situation is different. But
Yep.
I do think there's some money to be made here if you're in the right location so that you're not having vacancy all the time, right? And filling those spots. I've had people talk about getting an Airbnb and then they talk about getting it in Hamilton, where I don't know what your vacancy is going to be there unless you're not really looking for that vacationer. You're looking for someone that's wanting to stay maybe a month, 2 months, so they can get situated as they're transitioning into that city as a short-term rental. But I think Niagara Falls would be a good place for somebody in vacation in certain spots, right? Um, Toronto as well for people coming in and out. Obviously, it's a major city, but you mentioned earlier you have places in Arizona as well as Florida. Obviously, those are both major travel places. So is that really what drives most of it would be vacation rentals, right? Someone going away.
Great question, and that's I think one of the biggest I don't want to say issues, but the downfalls of people getting into Airbnb is they think that just any property in any location can do really well. And there's multiple different avenues that drive vacation rental or short-term rental business, and it's just knowing your avatar. So you're in downtown Toronto, you're really probably not going to have the same clientele as if you were in cottage country, or if you were in Niagara region, or if you were in Florida. So it's just knowing exactly who you're catering to, because you have your different clientele. You can have the business people that need to come for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month and a half because they're on a work trip. And maybe you'll only need a 1 to 3 bedroom condo for that because they're there for short term working professionals. Or having someone like our house gets rented out to people that are doing renovations for 3 to 6 months, where they need to be out of their house completely. They need a fully furnished home that can situate their entire family kind of close by, so their kids can stay in school. So it's really there is money to be made, but you need to make sure you know where the money is to be made when you're setting your property up.
Like any, I guess, long-term rental, we're looking for who that tenant's going to be, right? If you
Yeah.
have a property situated for X, you got to market to X, not A and B. Um,
Exactly. And on like times 10 kind of thing. Like this is very, very particular of not only the furnishing, but the marketing, the pricing, the settings, everything goes into making sure that you're getting in front of the right people.
and, I think there when they're traveling, especially, it's where they're going to stay, right? Again, we use Airbnb a lot. We have as a family. My wife is very particular about having a full kitchen whenever we travel.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the big one. That's the reason we've stayed away from hotels for, I'm going to say, close to a decade now. Right? Like it's been a while where we don't go to hotels as much. It has to have a full kitchen wherever we're going. We're off to Halifax in a couple of months and stopping in Quebec along the way. We're driving out there, and I got an Airbnb for 2 nights down near the Chateau Frontenac. When I looked at what it was going to cost to stay in there per night,
Yeah.
I decided I'm just going to eat dinner there instead of paying the $1,000 a night to stay there. But I
Yeah.
want to be in that area, right? And then we're out in Halifax, and again, we're in an Airbnb. Like they are everywhere as you're traveling. But I think to maximize that ROI, right, you got to be very particular with what you're looking for and what you're doing and how you execute, whether it's again vacation or that short term.
Exactly. And gone are the days where, it's been a while since I've looked at Ontario cap rates, so I wouldn't be able to specifically mention that compared to long term kind of thing. But I know back in the day, like this is back in the day, 5 to 7, 8 years ago, you could be 10, 12, 15% cap rates on a property anywhere because there was just limited supply. Now, yes, you might have an increased cap rate above what the normal is for that area, but you have to be very careful. So it's not like it's this money printing machine all the time. Sometimes it is just better than long term in that area by a few $1,000s or a couple, like $1,000 a month kind of thing, and making sure that you're setting it up properly versus just thinking, oh, I have a property, it's long term, I'm automatically going to make hand over fist money short term.
Yeah. Again, there's the niche, right? The short term versus the
Yeah.
vacation and being specific with it. I have two realtor friends in different areas. One does short term relocation for Army, right? They have a
Hmm.
big influx of naval and whatever is coming in and out, military, and they don't want to buy something right away. Some of them have certain areas that they do it, but they'll rent something for 3 to 6 months so that they're getting their family situated really quick and then they're out again. Um, and somebody else that does it for incoming immigrants. She helps them
Yeah.
get situated just quickly. Here's a spot. As soon as you land, you can have this for 3 to 6 months, and then you get into wherever you're going to go afterwards, right? And it helps people just take away that initial stress when they relocate. So there's definitely a lot of, I don't want to say a lot because again I don't know the numbers, but I got to think that there's opportunities out there, a ton of them to fill places if you're flexible to whether you're looking for something, this, that, or the other thing, or having that plan again as to what you're looking for.
Definitely. And what I would say now is, like, especially in Ontario, you just want to be very careful about tightening restrictions. So Toronto, for example, I know Toronto very well because that's where ours is. It has to be your primary residence. So you have to live there in the unit, or if you can rent like a secondary unit if you're living there, and you can only rent it for a total of 180 days a year. And Airbnb tracks that. If you go over, like, the not only Airbnb, VRBO and the other sites track it because it's all tied to your licensing number. And if you go over that by one day, you lose your license the next year. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts. It's your license is gone. And they really crack down on that. So every city is individual. Mississauga has something similar. It does have to be your primary residence, but you don't have to. It's not a 180-day limit. everywhere is a little bit different. So it's really about just making sure you know what the rules are, either when you're transitioning or before you're buying, because there is money to be made, but in the right spot. And you want to make sure that the city isn't thinking about tightening the rules or in introducing new rules right when you're about to buy. That's something you definitely want to look up ahead of time.
That's a great point, right? Things are changing all the time, staying on top of everything. We've talked quickly, I guess, what's changed already in the past start of this until now, how it's even. But what do you see changing in the next few years, like across Ontario and into the US as well?
Um, Unfortunately, I feel like Ontario is just going to get harder on restrictions. We are going in that direction. That is just how Ontario is run, where every city has or every municipality has control over it, and even some of the vacation spots, for example, Blue Mountain, like you can't have an Airbnb, you can't get a license within a certain pocket because they have the hotels there. They want to push forward to there. Whereas if you look at Florida, for example, they're like uh, as long as the government makes money, we don't care what you do. Like you can get your license, you can have 200 Airbnbs in a row. It doesn't matter as long as we get money because they know it'll just sort itself out because it's kind of just a free market down there where there's so many Airbnbs. So only there's only so many travelers. The bad ones kind of go out. Where here, Ontario is trying to control it a little bit more because of our mass. I would say over pollution with Airbnbs in kind of the 2019 to 2021 area, where everyone says that that was a cause of housing increase or sorry, housing price increase. But when you look at the data, it's really just a scapegoat. And so, but it's easy for it's easy for them to say Airbnbs are bad. Let's put restrictions on them because that's what the average person thinks is what's causing the issues. So I do see Ontario getting stricter. Most of Canada, like BC, is also getting stricter. I think most of Canada will be getting stricter with short-term rental regulations. So really making sure that you're looking into that. Do you have an option two or a plan B? If you can't do short-term less than 28-day rentals, what does a furnished midterm rental look like? As you were saying, like 1 to 3 months at a time, 2 to 6 months kind of thing. Versus the states, the US is the same in the sense of some states are very restrictive, some states are wide open. So it really just depends on where you're looking, what your goals are with investing.
It all comes back to money. I think a lot of these things are the government just trying to get extra money, right? With rental licensing, whether it's short term, long term. They charged the foreign investor another 10 or 15% a few years ago, thinking that that was going to slow it down when really that didn't either. It just put some more money in their pockets um, because it was still a really good deal for those foreign investors at that time to keep coming
Exactly.
over here, right?
Exactly.
Now they've changed the N13 and the GTA so that whole demolition renovation process is costing us as landlords more money to go through it all. Again, licensing and fees, it's all money grab to the government. And as an investor, it doesn't matter what sandbox you're playing in, you got to figure out the rules to that and then do the best you can within your rules, your guidelines, so you don't get penalized, you don't get fined, you don't get in trouble, you don't get your licensing pulled because that's, whenever people try to take shortcuts, you're going to get burned, whether it happens right away or later on. Um, I was told before that there's no elevators in life. You got to take the stairs. And
Love that one.
yeah, I think the same wave here. Every once in a while, if you look hard enough, though, there's an escalator. Um,
I love that. I
but
haven't heard that before.
yeah. So, anyways, it's do it right, take it the hard way, and it'll all pay off. Don't short yourself. Don't shortchange anything else. And I think that goes for sometimes, like you were mentioning the other day, when you're looking for luxury rentals, you have to be that luxury rental. You can't try to skimp out on your furnishings, but still try to play in the luxury rental space.
Yeah, it's especially if you're only, I said it on the last podcast, Airbnb is interchangeable with any site that you want to rent your place on. Just it's the most common short-term rental abbreviation. But if your main source of income is Airbnb, for example, which most hosts are, most people, property managers or owners are, it is a guest review um, game where it is all about the reviews. And if you get anything less than a 5-star review, it hurts your search algorithm. It hurts your property being put in front of more people because they really want to make sure that negative reviews and negative bad properties get kind of washed out. You'll actually get your property taken down if you get too many 3-star or below reviews in a row. So it's just when you set unrealistic expectations with your potential incoming guests, whether that's a 2 to 3 month stay because they're in between properties, whether that's a 2 3 night stay because they're there for a vacation, whatever that is, you want to make sure that you're hitting their expectations exactly. And that's usually when you get the good reviews, when it's like, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Because you have maybe a little bit better, but you don't want to pretend you're something you're not, because that's when you get into some trouble. With Airbnb in general at all.
I think what Brad's saying and what I've said all along is that you need to have a professional on your side. It's about who your team is and what you're doing. If you're an investor and you're looking to invest, the goal is to make money, not to add more headache and stress to our lives, right? The way we do everything with our Cressy Property Management seems to be similar with that. We take care of everything, just give us an approval and pay us for what we're doing, and everything will work out. But everything is guided and specific to the individual investor, and it covers a wide area as well, with 2 areas in the States and the province of Ontario. The marketing to do everything. It's really about having somebody again that can make sure you're learning and doing everything properly. Why make mistakes? Why handle things that you don't have to? Again, with us, it's more about long-term tenants having that situation, getting through there. But same thing with reviews, getting more tenants in there on that short term. So handling things properly, knowing handle things properly, right? Having that ability to react quickly when something's going on. There's lots of things that happen with this, and I'm sure, Brad, you could probably tell us right now a few mistakes that first time Airbnb hosts or short term rental hosts make that can cause them a lot of money or set them back, that they should maybe avoid or look out for.
Oh yeah. So um the first property that we set up in Florida. So we knew that my wife and I went down, we knew that we weren't going to be local. So we had to set up a full team to be there, the maintenance team, the cleaning team, that's no problem. We were brand new. I had a mentor at the time, and we just thought that all booking sites were the same. VRBO, Airbnb, booking.com. They're kind of just used interchangeably in the world when I was brand new. And so we thought that we had to get our property up on all three. um, we spend the month there getting the property set up, having a little vacation, and we put our property on booking.com. And as we're leaving, coming back to Ontario, we get a booking over the weekend. And I think it was after the first night, it was through booking.com. And we realized after the first night that no money exchanged hands because booking.com doesn't actually collect money. They're like the eBay or Kijiji of rental sites. So they literally just connect guests and hosts, and we were supposed to collect the money, but we didn't know that a setting had to be turned on so headache. Turns out these guests are in our property. No money has been given to us, and booking.com doesn't provide insurance the same way Airbnb does. So we have no money in hand, no insurance to cover if they damage anything, and no way to kick them out. We're really just sitting there for this whole weekend praying that these people don't completely trash the place because of a mistake that we made. Like, this could be the entire house could have been trashed. Like, these people we found out are essentially professional grifters in this sense. They look for people who put their properties on booking.com with auto acceptance, auto booking, and accept cash payments only. So they essentially just found us, stayed for the weekend, left. Thankfully, they only left, a very minor mess. It was like $5,000 of cleanup, where it could have been 20, 30, 40, 60, $100,000 if they really wanted to trash the place. So that was a lesson that we learned very quickly of. Um, it's a quick game, very, very quick. And one little mistake, no insurance, you do the wrong thing, you give someone the wrong keys, you don't know your regulations, you could be out tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on where you purchased and how much you put into it.
Wow. I think you got away with one there for sure, right? Who knows what could have happened?
You see-
Uh, but those people are
exactly.
out there, right? Those people are there to take advantage of situations. And when we're new to things, you can't have all the right answers. But that's why I liked how you mentioned you had a mentor to get started as well. It's a great way to avoid a lot of mistakes or get the right guidance as well. So as things are changing, and back to that topic of what's happening with keeping up with different types of situations going through, what would guests typically expect and want today that they didn't want before? What is changing in that world? Is it amenities? What's different?
Great question, and that's amenities is one of them. So I've said this a couple times on this podcast, as well as the last one we had together, where anyone with a tent could have put their property up and made money hand over fist because there wasn't anything. But the floor or the barrier to entry to just have an okay property these days is much higher. You can't just provide the basics anymore. You really want to provide for our properties, we want to make sure that they feel like it's home there. We have the air fryer, we have the instant pot, we have the magic blender or the ninja blender, like all of the things that most people that are our avatar or the people that will be traveling to our properties, we want to make sure that everything they have at their house they have here and more. You want to go over and above with games. You want to go over and above with design. Like you really got to go that extra mile to stand out just a little bit. But that little bit of extra money and thought going into your property will definitely pay off in the long term. So that's something is just people expect more, which is good because there's a lot of really bad properties out there and a lot of bad hosts. And I don't think it's fair that some people have to stay at those because they get tricked or whatever the situation. It's something is promised that isn't actually there.
I saw one time when we were flipping through something that I thought was pretty cool. It was down in Florida, and they had a whole every of the four bedrooms for kids were all a different theme. They had bunk beds in each one, or in a double, but it was Disney theater movie related, like whether one was Little Mermaid, I forget what they were, but it was really, really well done to bring it out. And then, when flipping through Instagram and stuff, you see the crazy places like the golf retreat weekends, or there was one in
Yeah.
India I saw one time where they actually had a go-kart track on their property, like, for stag weekends or whatever. Those are the obviously big in the extreme, but I get what you're saying there. What sorry?
I was going to say, and it also depends on the market. So, like, you're not going to see that in Toronto because Toronto is restricted on the number of Airbnbs. But if you're to look at Scottsdale, is a great example. It feels like a theme park in the house, like because the properties are pretty big there. You'll have acre, 2 acre properties. That's just average. So you'll have a go kart track, you'll have a lazy river, you'll have sport courts all in your backyard because people have to do this to stand out. They have pickleball courts, paddle, like all of this stuff and you have this bird's eye view and it looks like a compound. Same thing in Florida, a little bit, not as much, but you're obviously not going to see that here in Toronto because of the difference in restrictions and the time of the year and the weather. But every area has the real nice people that just put in that extra effort to stand out, and it's crazy with some of the things you can see.
I agree. I've seen some fun ones. I think we joked about going to one as a golf trip weekend. That was just unreal. But what type of trends do you see changing in and around for short term rental owners in the next little bit?
Yeah, so kind of going in this same direction is um, Airbnb went from a place that you could go that was a hotel alternative. That was kind of the first thing. It was, hey, I'm going to share a room, and then I'm going to share, at my house, whatever. And then it got turned. It kind of took over the vacation rental market and the business professional market. And now the trend that we're seeing is the experiential stays. So it's one of a kind stays or as unique as possible. So you have the treehouse that's lifted over a river in the middle of the woods. You have stuff in the debt. Like it's really thinking about how you can be creative and stand out from the crowd. We're seeing that whether it's a wellness setup or as you said, like the golf weekend where everything is real around that one specific topic, we'll call it, or the design. Are going all in on that. The ones in Orlando where it's an experience to go there. That's what people are looking for, and that's where the new kind of like big money is being made is when you're able to break into that market. You don't have to spend four, five, six, 800 grand on a renovation to break into that. You could just find like, there's some A-frame cabins, kind of between like Muskokas and Kawarthas and Bancroft area, where it's literally just a 2, 3, 400 square foot A-frame that was built in the middle of the woods, perched up, and that thing probably makes a ton of money because it's different. And that's really what we're seeing is the want for different or unique. in the next couple of years. So if this is something that you're looking at getting into, you have some money, like that's definitely the direction I see that you want to put your money into.
Like I said, we always look for when we travel. It's the full kitchen, the number one thing as a family, and a pool. Right? We're simple though. We're looking when we go somewhere, but I think that's right. It's what it's going to be about. It's that experience. They do draw our attention when they're out into something interesting like that as well. So, Brad, what's a great piece of advice or the piece of advice that you want to share with our listeners right now who are thinking about maybe getting into the short-term rental space, the Airbnb investment strategy? What would you share?
Great question. And my advice to anyone, whether it's short term or not, is just uh, do your research or work with a professional to help you get the answers that you don't know. Just like a long term rental, you invest in the wrong place, you invest the wrong time, the wrong way. You can overspend on things you don't need to, and it can turn out to be really bad. And I don't want to see that with anyone, especially if this is their first investment property, or even if it's their first couple. Like, by making a bad investment can really set you back. You don't have to do that. There's enough free resources. There's enough people you can work with, whether that's myself and my team or not, or my company or not. Is just really making sure that you know what you're getting into before just jumping in. There's so much. I'm gonna say uh, fake information or uh, pumped up information on Instagram. Everyone makes it look like it's so easy to just put an Airbnb up and make tons of money. If it was truly that way, everyone would be doing it. But that's why most people these days are saying Airbnb is dead because you can't do that anymore. So there are still a ton of people making really good money with it. And it is, to me, a better investment most times than a long term, as long as you have the capital to do it.
You know, Brad, I really like that answer. I think you're bang on there. It's about having the knowledge and information and looking to other people to help guide you, right? When you don't know what you don't know. Something I say often. Anyways, thanks so much for listening out there, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode about short-term rentals and Airbnb with Brad McRae.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. Appreciate jumping on for the second time here. And anyone has questions, happy to have conversations, whether or not it's something that our my team and I can actually help you with and work with you. I'm happy to be a resource to whatever level I can. My information, I believe, will be in the show notes or down below.
Folks, if you know another landlord out there, please share this podcast with them so that we can continue to get all this great information out there to our Ontario landlords. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Please remember, while we are professionals, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The advice shared may not apply to your unique situation. Always seek personalized advice from a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're finding it informative and useful, make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend so that we can keep getting the information out there to Ontario landlords. And keep on joining us. We'll see you next time.